Okay, today we're going to be going over some of the review problems that I assigned for you on Thursday, and I'm going to do it in sections, maybe not each section by itself, but it won't be one long video. So we're going to start with a chapter review today, and we're starting with number 12, where they asked you to find a pattern for each sequence, and the pattern that they listed was 34, 27, 20, 13, 6, and you are supposed to figure out what the pattern is and then find the next two numbers in the sequence. So in this one, you're actually just subtracting 7 from the previous number to get the next number. So 34 minus 7 is 27, 27 minus 7 is 20, and so on. So the next two numbers in the sequence would be 6 minus 7, which is -1, and -1 minus 7, which is -8. Okay. The next problem, that was number 12. The next problem we had was number 16, and they have some figures drawn, and you're supposed to look for the pattern and draw the next figure. So it looks like the folded corner is they're turning it counterclockwise, and each time they do that, they take part of the other corner off. So the last figure, or the next figure, should be, you have a square, and at the bottom is the folded in corner, but each of the other two corners are taken off, like that. Okay, I hope you can see that. It might be shining in the light. I'm not sure. Okay, that's the number 12 and number 16. Number 29, they gave you a line segment, and use a different color. You had the line segment AC, and there was a B in the middle. Each of these had a mark through it, which tells me that from A to B is the same length as B to C. And then they gave us 3m plus 5 was how they represented AB, and 4m minus 10 was the length from B to C. And so we're supposed to be finding the value of each variable. Well, there's only an m here. So what I'm going to do is take 3m plus 5 and set it equal to 4m minus 10. I'll subtract a 3m from both sides, and I'll get 5 equals m minus 10, and then I'll add 10 to the other side. So I'm going to end up with m equals 15. Okay, in this case, that's all they asked for, but be sure you read the instructions, because if they had asked for the length AB, I would need to go back and plug 15 in and find the length of AB. Okay, the next two problems, 32 and 33, are construction problems, and I'm going to do those, but I'm going to need to use the Post-it note, so I'm going to have to do that not right now. I'm going to skip those two for now, and I'm going to go to number 35. So this is still from the chapter review. So number 35 is from section 1.8, and they were asking to find the distance between 2 points that were given. So the 2 points that were given are C, -1, -1, and D, 6, 2. So those are my 2 points. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Okay, hopefully you can see that better. I need to use a distance formula. That's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And I'm going to just think of these as x1, y1, and x2, y2, these 2 points that I was given. And so I'm using the x values first this time, not the y values like we do in slope. So this would be 6 minus a negative 1 all squared plus 2 minus a negative 1 all squared. All of that is under the square root. Okay, and so in here, when I have 6 minus a negative 1, I actually change that to 6 plus 1, so that's going to be 7 squared. Plus 2 minus a negative 1 becomes 2 plus a positive 1, so that's 3 squared. That will give me the square root of 49 plus 9, which is the square root of 58. All right, they did ask me, let's see, to round it to the nearest tenth. So in that case, you'll use your calculator and just put in 58 square root, and that would give me 7.6. Okay. I'm keeping my time on this so I don't go too long. Okay, the next problem is number 37, which is also in that, from that same section in the chapter review. We're trying to find the coordinates of the midpoint, and they give me G and H. They want me to find the coordinates of the midpoint for between G and H. So G, now I have to move this. Okay, G is negative 3, 2. H, keep losing my spot. H is 3, negative 2. And so I'm going to find the midpoint. Remember that the way we find the midpoint is basically we're averaging the x values and we're averaging the y values to get a new x and y value. So I'm going to do negative 3 from here, from the x value from G, plus 3 is the x value from H, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. And then for the y coordinate, I will do the y values 2 plus negative 2 divided by 2. Okay, so when I add negative 3 plus 3, I get 0. 0 divided by 2 is just 0. And then for the y coordinate, 2 plus negative 2 is 0. And then 0 divided by 2 is 0. So the midpoint turned out to be 0, 0 for that problem. Okay, number 40 was a problem where we needed to find the area and the perimeter. Okay, and this, in number 40, we had a rectangle that was 13 feet in length, or in the base, and 6 feet for the height. So I need to make sure I know all of my formulas, but for the perimeter, it's going to be 2 times the base plus 2 times the height. So it'll be 2 times 13 plus 2 times 6. That will be 26 plus 12. So for the perimeter, I will get 38. And that was in feet. They also asked for the area. So for the area, we're doing the base times the height. Oh, I'm not zoomed in right. Hold on. Keep forgetting to move the camera. Okay, base times height. So this will be 13 times 6. That's going to give me 78. And it's going to be in feet squared or square feet for the area. So make sure that you're reading the instructions. In this case, they want a perimeter and area, so we needed to do both. All right, there's one more that's not a construction. That was number 41, where they give us a shape that's not a regular shape. Let's see. Okay, so the shape is kind of a funny looking, it's a square, but then we have a little piece added on over here. It's a rectangle. And they have the markings so that you can tell what the lengths are. So they have, at the bottom of this smaller rectangle, they've marked this as 3 inches. And they put a line through the side. And then they have a line on this part and a line on this part on top. But on the right side of that figure, it's marked with 2 small hash marks. So that means it's not this, that side is not 3 inches. It doesn't match. And this piece up here that's marked is just this top part, not the part that's connected to the square. So be careful as you're looking at that. The square is marked with all of these sides being the same. And it's 5 inches. Except for this part on the bottom of the square, which is marked here with 1 line going through it underneath, because we don't have this information for this part where they're connected. So what that tells me is if I'm finding the perimeter and the area, I need to figure out what all these sides are. I know that for the ones that are marked 2, that each of those is 5. The ones that have 1 line, 1 hash marked through are 3 inches. So this little part here is 3. And this part up here is 3. And this top is 3. This part that's not marked must be, if this is a square, that means the opposite sides are the same. So this part that was not marked with a hash mark must be 2 inches. Okay, that's going to help us when we find the area, but right now for the perimeter we're only adding up the parts that are on the outside. So I'm going to add the 5. There are 3 of those, so 5 plus 5 plus 5. There's a 4th 5 over on this side, but I'm not going to write it yet because I'm trying to go in order. So as I go around, there's a 3 plus 3. Write that first. I'm going to have to go underneath. I'm running out of room. Okay, so that's the 3 plus 3, and then another 5, another 3, and another 3. So I'm just going around the figure adding it up. So I'm going to end up with 4 5s, that's 20. And then there are 4 3s, that's 12. So I end up with 32 inches. That's my perimeter. Okay, that's just from adding up. But part of what we had to do is figure out what those side lengths were. All right, the other part they want is for us to find the area. So I'm going to find the area of these separately, the area of this small piece and the area of the larger square. And I'm going to add those together. Okay, so the area is going to be the area of this square, which should be 5 squared. And then the area of this rectangle, if I do the 3 plus 2 here, that's 5 on that side. So this is a rectangle, and I would be multiplying 3 times 5. So I'm going to get 25 plus 15, and that will be 40 inches squared. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and then I'll do one with the constructions.